Freedom! The animals at the zoo may look super chill, but you can bet they have that sweet taste of freedom on their minds. You can get that sweet freedom taste by hitting the notification bell and subscribing to this channel. We go to the zoo and watch the animals in an approximation of their natural habitats. There's snacks and souvenirs and people of all ages. There's school field trips and senior citizens being bussed in. The zoo is a central place in every city where everybody can go to have a fun time, and it's been that way for years. And for all those years, when the lights go out and the last car leaves the parking lot, the animals go to work planning their escapes. These are the 10 wildest animals to ever escape from the zoo.
You, quadruped, sprechen Sie English?
I sprechen.
Number 10. Ken Allen the orangutan at the San Diego Zoo was a true escape artist. His numerous escape attempts earned him the nickname the Hairy Houdini. Ken lived at the San Diego Zoo from 1971 until the year 2000. He was born in captivity, and even as a youngster, he would escape his cage by unscrewing bolts, then screwing them back in the morning. The first time he escaped his enclosure as a full-grown orangutan, zoo staff found him strolling around the zoo, looking at other animals and taking pictures with tourists. They caught him and put him back, but 1 week later, he had escaped again and was outside the cage of one of his former penmates and throwing rocks at that jerk of an orangutan named Otis. Good for Ken. We all hate Otis. Zookeepers thought maybe Ken was jealous because Otis had more ladies in his pen, so they got some lady friends for Ken. But evidently, he was a bad influence and zookeepers found them trying to escape. On Ken's last escape, he found a forgotten squeegee and used it to climb the wall and walk around the zoo with his lady orangutan friend, Jane. The zoo spent $45,000 covering up every nook and cranny on Ken's wall and had a team of rock climbers inspect it to ensure that he couldn't escape again. That didn't stop people from buying free Ken Allen merchandise. Number 9. If you hear a code red called at the zoo, watch out. You never know what the emergency could be, if an animal has escaped, or how big and dangerous it is. Maybe it's just a little lemur, or maybe it's a 4,000-pound white rhinoceros named Archie. That was the case in 2010 when the 41-year-old rhino took his horn for a stroll in the Jacksonville Zoo and Gardens in Florida. Oh, and this was the second time Archie escaped. Hey, Jacksonville Zoo, you might want to invest in some more 4,000-pound white rhinoceros-proof locks. The first time Archie got out of his pen, they were able to lure him back with some food. Hey, been there. The second time, however, Archie didn't want to play along. They had to shoot him with tranquilizers. Then it took 20 workers to corral him into a nearby elephant enclosure before Archie was safely away from the public. It just goes to show, you can't keep a good rhino down. Number 8. When zoo workers in the Odense Zoo in Denmark walked down the corridor towards the penguin exhibit and noticed lots of small, icy, wet penguin footprints on the floor, they knew something was amiss. A few yards down the hall, they found the culprits, and surprise, they were escaped penguins. A couple of penguins had evidently caught a screening of Madagascar and were inspired to try a similar escape. When no one was looking, they slipped out of the back of their enclosure and waddled as fast as they could, which, to be honest, is still pretty slow, toward the exits. Unfortunately for the fancy, flightless felons, the zookeepers happened upon their tracks before they made it to the door, and they had to figure out a way to open the handle.
Dựa vào áo vải. Hvad laver I her, Amme?
The penguins were all safely returned to their enclosure, and hopefully no one ever shows them the Shawshank Redemption. Number 7. Here's the thing about wolves. We know they're pack animals. We know they traverse through forests and plains and sometimes howl at the moons. And we know that they're not supposed to climb trees. Well, nobody told that to Virginia the wolf at the Los Angeles Zoo. Not only did Virginia break wolf barriers by climbing trees, she became an expert tree climber and used the trees and branches in her enclosure to escape her habitat multiple times. There were several occasions where zoo employees would see Virginia just walking along the high-up branches of the trees in her pen, a short jump from freedom. They were able to get her down with tranquilizers, but it wasn't enough of a warning for them to remove the trees because she later used those same branches to leap out of the zoo and into nearby Griffith Park, 4,000 acres of hiking trails, forest, and mountains that surrounded the zoo. It's unclear if Virginia was ever recaptured. Number 6. Want to know the easiest way to tell the difference between an alligator and a crocodile? If it sees you later, alligator. After while, crocodile. After while is exactly what Marley the crocodile said to his habitat enclosure at the Central Florida Zoo and Botanical Gardens in 2019 when he briefly escaped and went for a stroll? Do crocodiles stroll? Sure, he briefly went for a stroll around the zoo. Marley is 51 years old, nearly 13 feet long, and has been at the zoo since 1983. Zookeepers say no one was in any danger while Marley was out. You know, everyone was as perfectly safe as you can be when a 13-foot-long cranky croc that's tasting freedom for the first time in several decades is on the loose. Central Florida Zoo and Botanical Gardens? This isn't the first time for Florida to show up on this list, and I get a feeling it won't be the last for the Sunshine State. Number 5. In 1965, London was a real swinging place to be. Rock music was blasting, fashion was exploding in new directions, and Goldie the Golden Eagle was making multiple escape attempts from the London Zoo. There's something a little sad about all these animals being caged up, but it's really crazy for birds. Those things can fly anywhere they want, and you want to keep them in one place? Apparently, Goldie didn't think very highly of this idea either. The Golden Eagle escaped from his cage in the London Zoo for 12 days in March of 1965 before being brought back. Then, a few months later in February, when his cage was being cleaned, he snuck out again. Goldie hung out for 2 weeks in Regent's Park, which surrounds the zoo, while the public watched zookeepers and the Navy attempt and fail to capture Goldie. The eagle took a field trip and ate a duck swimming in the pond at the American Ambassadors. He was eventually lured back with food and only escaped one more time after that. Number 4. These zoo escapes are serious business, and the zoo staff in the area are truly putting their life on the line. That lesson was harshly reiterated in 2018 when a lion escaped its locked enclosure in a North Carolina zoological park and mauled a young zoo intern to death. Somehow, a large play ball blocked the gate, keeping Mathai, the 14-year-old lion, inside, and prevented it from closing completely. The lion found the graduate student working there at the Conservators Center and pounced on her, dragging her around by the neck for an extended period of time. Rescuers were too late. The male lion was restrained before any further human life was lost and was then euthanized. Number 3. Certainly no one deserves to get killed by a wild animal. But listen, there are certain things you just don't do. You don't tug on Superman's cape, you don't pee into the wind, and you never, under any circumstances, provoke a 243-pound tiger, especially when there's signs telling you not to. That's what happened when 3 men visiting the San Francisco Zoo on Christmas Day in 2007 decided to get drunk and throw sticks and pine cones at a 4-year-old Siberian tiger named Tatiana. Little did the men know that Tatiana had already pulled a zookeeper's arm in and bitten it as they fed her last year, so she had a history of aggressive behavior. The tiger leapt over her enclosure's barrier and mauled one of the men to death while the others ran for safety. She was found stalking them when she was shot through the head and put down. Number 2. Some of us just aren't meant for the free world. A hippo at the Ramat Gan Safari in central Israel realized this when she escaped briefly. The hippo had a small taste of that sweet, sweet freedom and decided that, it just wasn't for her. After about 2 minutes of cage-free life, the hippopotamus decided that she just couldn't make it in the outside world and returned to the zoo on her own accord. Smart choice, hippo. Who knows what could be out there? Stick with what you know. Plus, you've got some killer stories for all your hippo friends and family. Number 1. And we're back in Florida. Ali, 28-year-old African bull elephant, wandered through a gate left open at his holding yard at the Jacksonville Zoo and Gardens in 2018. Apparently, Ali was just hungry and wasn't satisfied with the meal options in his area. He took a few steps out of the gate and started chomping down on some trees just out of reach of his pen. And Ali had already led quite a life pre-escape. Before coming to the Jacksonville Zoo and Gardens in 1997, Ali's home was the Neverland Ranch. That's right, Ali was Michael Jackson's elephant. You know what, zookeepers? Ali has been through some stuff. Let Ali do whatever Ali wants to do.